Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the Backlog Backyard Podcast, a show where we embrace the nostalgia, we remind ourselves that gaming is fun, and we continue through our backlog in the process. Now, last episode, I talked about how it's important to have systems in place to help you keep track of your games, and also that you need to have a plan going forward. Otherwise, you're essentially just throwing your games on the floor, and every time you go to pick one up, it's like someone is in your ear telling you should play something else instead. Speaking of that, there's something I wanted to talk about. Now, there's a lot of fun stuff that's been announced over the past couple weeks and the past week more so in general, such as Borderlands 4 getting its gameplay reveal, Destiny 2 Edge of Fate being revealed, and the next year of Destiny content coming out. As you guys know, if you follow the channel, I'm a huge Destiny fan. And also, GTA 6 has a brand new trailer. Yes, it's been delayed until next year, but the new trailer has everybody hyped nonetheless. And something I wanted to talk about was the fact that just because we have a backlog doesn't mean that that's the only thing that we can play on any given day. And the reason why I say this is because I've had people in the past say things to me to the effect of, "Oh, what are you playing? Just cleaning yourself?" That's my cat Daisy back there. To the effect of, "Oh, you shouldn't buy a new game. I don't know why you're going to buy a new game. You have so many games to play through. I wouldn't do that if I were you." And I just want to say that if someone's telling you that and you're looking forward to something for a long time, fuck them. And here's why. If there is a game that is coming out that you're a diehard fan of, we're going to use Borderlands 4 for an example because I'm a diehard Borderlands fan. Die hard. And back here, it's going to be hard to pull them out. So I'll just pull. Here we go. I got two. I got Borderlands 1. I got Borderlands the pre-sequel. Borderlands 2 is back here. The Handsome Collection. Borderlands 1 Game of the Year. You get the picture. So Borderlands 4 is a game that I'm very excited for. Right, Daisy? She's excited too. And if you're excited for Borderlands 4, let's say, and you've been keeping up with it, you've been watching all the trailers, all the gameplay reveals, you're on Game Informer reading the cover story rather, and you get to September and you have people saying to you, "I wouldn't do that if I were you." What is probably going to happen? And this is, did you see that? Did you see that back there? Spider Cat? Hey, are you being Spider Cat? No? She doesn't want to answer. If you have people saying that to you and almost guilting you into playing something that you've been so excited for, what that does is it plants these seeds of doubt in your head where you start saying things to the effect of, "Yeah, I don't know if I should play that. They're right. I have so many games on my backlog. Maybe this is why I never finish anything." Stop. The most important thing to ask yourself is, do I have the expendable income? If no, then you wait. Play what you have. That way, when you have the expendable income, you can go buy that thing, and by that time, you could be maybe another 2 games or another game through your backlog. 2, if it's a game that you're not entirely sure that you're going to love, wait. That's when things like Christmas and birthday. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Hold on. Okay, it went away. That's when things like Christmas and birthdays come into play, and you can maybe get that game as a gift. Then you don't feel the pressure to have to buy it. But if it's a game that you are absolutely in love with and you cannot wait to play, buy it. If you're looking for permission, you have the expendable funds, and it's a game you're dying to play and you've been waiting for it and anticipating it for months or years even, buy the game. Because at the end of the day, this is a hobby that's meant to be fun. And if we restrict ourselves by not having fun, it's going to make it seem like a chore, like a job, like work. I'll give you a prime example. I mentioned Destiny 2 Edge of Fate. Destiny 2 is a live service game constantly getting updates. I mentioned last time that I have a backlog of over 100 games. If I let myself not enjoy Destiny 2 because I said to myself and made these fake rules that I can only play by backlog, I'd be miserable. I told my wife, July 15th, mark your calendar, honey. Edge of Fate's coming out. Nobody talk to me. Nobody call me. I'm going to work, coming home, playing Edge of Fate. Done deal. And I'm going to be honest, and my best friend's not going to like what I'm about to say. If I don't beat Baldur's Gate 3 by then, and Edge of Fate comes out, Baldur's Gate 3 is going to kick rocks. Screw it. Metaphor ReFantazio. Forget it. It's going to be a Destiny summer, baby. That's what I'm excited for. But like I said, if I put rules in on myself to limit my fun, my glasses are dirty as hell. I got specs and I can't really see through the lens. If I put these limitations in for myself, I wouldn't have fun. I'd be miserable and I wouldn't want to play through my backlog. So that's just one thing. Play what you want. They still didn't get clean. What am I doing? And if it's something that you're looking forward to, go out and buy it. It's okay. Again, if you have the income. Now, with all that being said, let's say that you're not looking forward to anything coming out and you want to work through your backlog. And you took what I said last time to heart and you have some sort of list and some sort of system in place and you're organized. You're ready to go. What do you do from there? Well, there's one thing that I would suggest, and it's actually rather simple. You look at your backlog, and unless you're a really big fan of RPGs, you may not want to start there. And the reason I say this is because these massive RPGs are a lot to get through. We're talking 60 hours plus for most RPGs. And what that could do is that could lead to a little bit of a burnout if you don't initially love the game to bits. I'll use Baldur's Gate for an example, like I did last time. It took me all the way till Act 2 to be really invested into Baldur's Gate, and that was about, I'd probably say, 15 to 20 hours into the game. And sometimes you may not want to wait that long. Sometimes you just may want to jump into the game right away. And it's important to understand that sometimes starting small is better. Now, you could say to me, Phantom, that's great advice, but I bought these games so long ago, I don't even remember what type of game they are. Well, okay. So then here's how we figure out how long these games are. Google. It's the easiest thing you can do. One of the things you can do, and it's a website I started using recently, is use a website called How Long to Beat. You go to Google, you type in How Long to Beat Astrobot. You click enter, the website pops up, and it'll give you, my nose is itchy. All this pollen. Oh, I'm sorry. But it'll give you a breakdown of how long it takes to beat the main story, how long it takes to beat the main story with side content, and how long it takes to complete the entire game. And what this does, especially if you're torn between, let's say, two different games, is it lets you look at them and go, well, this game's about 15 hours, and this game's about 35 hours. I don't really feel like putting 40 hours into a game right now. And now you have your starting space. You can go with the smaller option. Now, obviously, if your backlog is as lengthy as mine, you may not want to look up every single game on there, because that could take time. But if it helps you catalog and categorize your games better, then by all means go ahead. When you're making your gaming backlog, when you're setting everything up, as you're listing them out, you just have your computer open and you type in the game name and you just write down how long it takes to beat. As a rough estimate, most games you'll probably do main and some side stuff. It's very rare you'll just do main stuff. For example, I'm replaying Borderlands 2 for my retrospective, and I'm realizing that as much as I want to blitz through the end right now, that because of the leveling system in it, it actually pays to do the side content. So I do have to do side content and some of the side stuff so I have a more enjoyable time in the main content. And that's very much the case with big games and RPGs and open world games, is the side content is meant to enrich the playthrough and it's meant to enrich your time with the game. And sometimes being over leveled in a game like that really helps. So start small, pick smaller games, and then work your way up into these bigger open world games or these bigger RPGs. Now, let's say you picked your game. Okay? You said, okay, Phantom, I got my game picked, and I'm playing the game, and I've been playing it for weeks, and I don't really know how far along I am in it. Well, there's a couple things we can use to gauge progress. And when you're working through a lot of games, progress is king. Sometimes, like with me, it can be very daunting. You have 107 games to play, and just crossing one game off the list is a drop in a bucket. And eventually, over time, the more crossed off games, the bigger the bucket gets filled. I'm using water as an analogy, but you get what I'm saying. Sometimes when you just cross off one thing out of a list of 100, it doesn't feel like much. So, what I would say is don't focus necessarily on checking the games off the list as fast as possible, but when you have the game, whatever game you're playing with, and we're going under the assumption that you're only playing one game, I mentioned last time that you can juggle multiple games if that's something that works for you. But for this example, we're going to use a one game system. What are you meowing for over there? Are you going to come say hi? Let's see if she says hi. She's walking behind the monitor. So, there's a couple things we can do to keep track. Oh, hello there. There she is. How are you doing? Yeah? Are you going to behave? She likes to get bitey when she's on the desk. So, I'm going to leave you there, okay? You going to jump off? All right, there she goes. So, there's a couple things we can use to track progress of our game that we're playing. So, one of the things you can use is trophies if you're on PlayStation, or achievements, or on Steam and Xbox. They're the same thing. Most modern games from the PS3 on had trophies and achievements, and 9 times out of 10, most of them are tied to main quests and main story beats. So, usually, when you're looking at the trophy list, it'll have the platinum, it'll have a list of unknown trophies, which tend to be story trophies, and at the very bottom, it'll have a beat the game on normal mode or beat the game on hard mode. Not all the time, but most of the time. And what you can typically say is, okay, these are maybe the chapters of the game, or these are the main quests. So you can always check your trophy list, and that can sometimes give you a vague idea and a rough idea of how far you are in the game. Another thing we can do is use main quest lists. Now, this can be filled with spoilers. You have to be very careful when doing this, especially if you're playing a game that you don't want spoiled. I'm doing this with Borderlands 2, and I did it with Borderlands 1 on my recent playthrough just to give myself an idea of what was going on, but I know that there can be spoilers, so this is something that I'm going to caution you to use. I wouldn't necessarily use it as your first form, but what you can do is just look up, let's say, I don't know, I'm taking a game off my shelf. Dragon Age Veilguard main quest list. And when you pull it up, instead of reading the whole thing and spoiling quest names, because sometimes quest names give spoilers, you just look, you start at the very beginning. So you want to do this about when you've put a couple hours into a game, when you've played a game for a little while. You look at the very beginning, you go, oh, that's the first quest. And then you go one by one until you find the quest you're on. And then you say, okay, these are all the quests. You could also just type into Google how many. What are you grabbing at? What are you grabbing? Okay. Want to come up? Let's see if she jumps up here, guys. Come on. Want to say hi? Up? No? Okay, get that. So, one of the things you could also do is just look up how many main quests or how many chapters are in X game. And that will give you a rough answer as well. If you're on PlayStation specifically, this also isn't the most reliable. At least with Baldur's Gate 3, it's pretty reliable with other games I've noticed, is when you're on the PlayStation 5 homepage and you look at the game that you have installed, down at the bottom right, you'll see the time played. It'll be a little clock, and that'll roughly tell you how many hours. That part's not usually reliable. Next to it, you may see a flag with a standings bar or a little bar graph, and it'll say 25%, 10%. That's supposed to show you the percentage through the main game that you're playing. I'm sure it's pretty accurate. I know with Baldur's Gate specifically, it can be a little wonky, but you can use that as well. I don't know if Steam or GameSpot or Xbox has the same type of feature, but that's something that can be very helpful, especially with these bigger games, because you play them for so many hours and you sit there and you go, man, how far am I in this game? And you look on your dashboard and it says you're 65% through the game, and you go, oh, well, that's not bad. Or maybe you're 95% and you go, oh, I'm really close to the end. Let's just grind through the rest of this and beat this game. We can get it off the list. Again, don't want to look at it as rushing through the game. You want to make sure you enjoy the game. And if you're not enjoying the game at all, and it's just not fun at all, stop playing it, uninstall it, take it off the list. You don't have to go back to it unless you want to give it a second shot. One of the other great things you can do, especially if you find yourself taking big breaks between games, is use a game journal. And I know what you're saying, game journal? Well, you're having me write lists and now I have to make a game journal? You don't have to, but it's something that could help. So for instance, here we go. This was back in December when I was playing through Kingdom Hearts Rechain of Memories and Destiny 2. Where is it? Right there. I just wrote some notes. You can see it says I finished Axel. I grinded to level 8. I got the Nocturne card. And what this does is, if you're specifically juggling, I almost dropped my PlayStation DualSense. That would not have been good. If you're juggling multiple games at once, you write down major things. You don't have to write every little detail. You write major things. So let's say we're playing Astrobot and we're playing, I don't know, Metaphor ReFantazio. So you're playing Astrobot, you finish your Astrobot session for the day or for the night, and you just write down Astrobot, date it. This is important, and I'm going to tell you why. Then you write down what you did. Finished 5 levels, found 8 bots. Boom. You go off the next day, you play Metaphor ReFantazio, you finish a dungeon. Metaphor ReFantazio. Date it. Cleared Dragoon dungeon, progressed main story. Done. Let's say that you were playing these 2 games and something came out like Oblivion. Oblivion Remastered drops and you went, I have to relive my childhood. I have to relive my high school years. You drop both those games, you play Oblivion, and you're playing Oblivion for 3 months. You finish Oblivion, you go, that was nice. You look on your dashboard or your desktop or whatever, and you go, I want to get back to Metaphor now. I want to get back to Astrobot, get back to the backlog. So you go back, you boot up, especially with RPGs, this is why. If you were to just boot it up normally, you may be completely lost. I don't really remember what I was doing. Is this important? Am I doing a main quest right now? Obviously, most RPGs have a journal that label main and side quests. But when you're playing big games like this, and I've had friends, who have admitted this in the past, when you're playing these big games, and I've done this, if you take gaps between play sessions, especially long ones, when you come back, sometimes you just restart the game because you have no idea what's going on. And you don't want to sit through the journal. I did this a lot with Pokemon, believe it or not, especially with Generation 4. Not so much 3 or 2, but Generation 4 I would play, I'd get pretty far in it, and then I'd restart it, and I would just sit there and say to myself, yeah, I might as well just scrap this and start all over again. And that's a game that has an in-game journal to tell you the last thing you did. But let's say you kept a game journal. Let's say you wrote down the things you did. So now, what you do is you beat Oblivion, you say, okay, let's go back to Metaphor, let's go back to Astrobot, let's pull out the game journal, open the book. All right, so in December, man, I can't believe it's been 3 months. In December, I beat these last 5 levels in Astrobot and I collected 10 bots, okay? And in Metaphor, I cleared the Dragoon dungeon and I progressed the main story. Okay, you boot up Metaphor, you have a bearing. You may not remember every exact little detail, but you have a bearing, an understanding of where you are at that moment in the game. You go, okay. So I just did this. Read the little quest tips. Read the little journal entries. Okay, did all that. I'm good to go. You're right back into it. It just makes getting back into the game easier. And whatever makes things easier for us can aid in our enjoyment. So you keep track of these things, major things, if you plan on taking a break. You write down any big activities, any major milestones, and then when you come back to it, you have an idea of what you're doing. This is also very useful not just for RPGs or collectathons, but live service games and MMOs as well. I'm not talking about Marvel Rivals or Overwatch or anything like that, but Destiny 2, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14. You keep track of this stuff. That way, when you log in, especially if there's a big time gap, you have a general idea of what you were doing before you left. And all of this is meant to make things easier. So now we've got our lists, we've got our catalogs, we've got our game journal, we've got all the steps in starting the backlog. And that's really essentially how you do it. That's how you get started. That's not the end of the show. I'm sure we'll have plenty more to talk about, plenty more to discuss with all new games coming out. I want to use this as a platform to share my experience with games, to hear your experience with games in the comments, whatever you're playing, your struggles with your backlog, your struggles with games that are too hard, and we'll touch on other things here and there, completionists, trophies, things in that nature, the hype cycle of games. We won't necessarily talk too much about gaming news, because I want this to be more about the overall enjoyment, but when there's big announcements like Grand Theft Auto 6 and Borderlands 4, I definitely will talk about it. But with all that being said, that's going to do it for today's episode. So I hope you enjoyed it, and until next time, remember, it's all about having fun.